it like all matched together of, no, I struggle. I've been a nurse for over 25 years, and there are things that in the moment make it really challenging for me to do what I know needs to happen, advocating for my patient and such. And so it was like a collision of all three that's like, oh, it doesn't actually matter where you are in your career. This is a human experience. We struggle with these things outside of patient care.
Welcome back to Curious Now. I'm Jenny Rudolph, and you're here with us at the Center for Medical Simulation. Today, I have Bridget Van Gotten with me here from the Zamierowski Institute for Experiential Learning at the University of Kansas Medical Center and KUMC. Bridget, really excited to see you. I've worked with the team there for so many years. Welcome. So, Bridget, you have such a cool title. You are a Learning and Design Strategist at the Zamierowski Institute. You're also a cardiac intensive care nurse. And I believe you work across both the hospital, the medical school, the simulation program, helping the likes of me and other faculty get better at debriefing.
Given how our institute sits between both the university and the hospital, I have got to experience over the years debriefing and learning from both nursing and medical students all the way to attendings while also practicing. So it has been a rewarding journey.
Bridget, we've brought you on today to help me and our listeners understand something really important in getting to a deeper place with our colleagues during debriefings. So this section that we're working on in the podcast is helping people master the art of previewing what they're going to talk about, then being very specific about what they saw, what they think about it, and then exploring with them what they're thinking in a process we call preview. I saw, I think, I wonder. But you guys have discovered, I think, that many of us struggle with that last bit of inquiry and how to really engage with our learners or our colleagues or the people we're negotiating with to find out what the bleep they really are thinking.
In our co-blue training program of physicians and nurses, they would ultimately do what we had expected them to do. So we were no longer closing performance gaps. What we were experiencing was we would preview in our observations, and they would say, yeah, I find it helpful. Or, yeah, of course, I stand at the foot of the bed, not engaged in task. And also they would say, well, you told the other ones to do it, so that's why I did it. And so we were struggling with what to do with that. And also when they were like agreeing with our point of view, our natural inclinations were to shift the conversation to someone else.
Okay, so let me just label this a certain way, Bridget, and see whether it resonates with you. So it sounds like when people did perform in a way that was to the standard that you had or was excellent or good, the conversation kind of fizzled out and stalled. And you weren't really sure what to talk about with them or how to deepen the learning from that point.
Yes, exactly.
Were there other things that motivated this?
Because we're able to debrief all types of learners, we started uncovering that the reasons why people were either able to successfully do it or they struggled with something, it didn't matter the level of learning. It could be a first-year medical student all the way to an attending. And that shocked us and surprised us. And again, we were able to experience that because I would go from one day debriefing experienced clinicians in cardiac arrest to the next day a medical student, and the struggles and the hesitations were more universal than we ever thought.
Part of what got me quite excited about your explore phase and your tips and tricks around that was your identification of these sort of universal dilemmas that people have. As you script people to dig into other people's thinking or frames, you're coaching them to probe for what you call core human frames, probe for the connection between the experience and conversation, and universal hesitations, fears, challenges, etc. And what I hear you saying now is those were the same whether you're a first-year medical student or a 20-year experienced ICU doctor. So can you
Yes.
talk to me a little bit about what you discovered there?
It was an incorrect assumption that a medical student wouldn't describe what it feels like to stand at the foot of the bed and lead a team. My own personal reflection on the unit, like I know what it means to be a good leader and, having emergent situations and being able to do what I know that was best for the patient, but still having an internal struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it like all matched together of no, I struggle. I've been a nurse for over 25 years, and there are things that in the moment make it really challenging for me to do what I know needs to happen, advocating for my patient and such. And so it was like a collision of all three that's like, oh, it doesn't actually matter where you are in your career. This is a human experience. We struggle with these things outside of patient care. Talking about core human frames, we've definitely had a couple ideas of what to name it and how to help people. We internally struggled with what do we name, like what goes on the guide, what doesn't go on the guide. And so just calling out, it is an open influx and we're definitely learning a lot.
You all have a cognitive aid for Explore Tips and Tricks, which I have in my hand right now. And
Correct, yeah. The first one we've labeled as worried about impression of others. Some of the phrases that we hear that we would categorize under that is, I didn't want to seem too bossy, or others tell me that I'm a know-it-all. The relationship side of our human experience, that I'm going to work with you tomorrow and I don't want you to think that I'm not a good nurse, or I don't want you to think that I don't like you. It's true on the units that I've worked on, and also it's true in my personal life as well. So some of the reasons why I don't say things to others is because I value them as a human being and our relationship. And so I don't want to do anything to fracture that. That's one, the worried about impression of others. Another one that could be more specific to the work we do in healthcare, the stress about the human life that we're caring for and the potential of them dying. Partnered with like time. So like the pressure and the time. I know I certainly have done it, and you hear others talk about, no, I skipped that step because I didn't have enough time, or I was worried about the patient, therefore I needed to move faster. So I shortchanged some things. And then the, moving forward when unsure. There are lots of patients I've cared for in my career that ultimately we didn't end up knowing what the diagnosis was, for various reasons. And so it feels really good when you can rule out and come to, oh no, this is what is happening. This is what the diagnosis is. And the fear of being wrong or unsure about things, coupled with data and the things we have in front of us, it's not a clear picture.
mm-hmm.
And yet, that doesn't mean that we have to stop caring for the patient. Like we can't pause. Like we have to make decisions and move forward when we don't actually know what the diagnosis is. So that's also a hesitation and a struggle. Specifically, that one comes up when you're talking about being open about what the differential and the prioritized diagnosis is. What happens in those scenarios is then you receive a whole bunch of orders. The physician orders a whole bunch of things. And so I, as the nurse, if I have a different prioritized diagnosis that I have not been forthcoming with, the order and rate at which I do the 12 orders that have been given to me is based off of my own internal. And so when they don't match up with the physician thinks it's this, which means I should do X first, but I think it's Y, so I do Z first. ultimately there's friction and struggle because neither of us are clear of what order we should do things based off of what the diagnosis is. So that's how it plays out on the unit when neither parties are forthcoming. The more we can explore these core human frames, the more everyone else in the room can relate and put themselves forward, thinking of, hey, think of times that you struggled because you're worried about the impact of impression of others. And so it is transforming the discussion, let's say with a group of 12 people, that only one person was able to be the leader. You can start to see when you're hitting on the core human frame, you'll see nods from others in the room, and it's like, oh, okay, you're agreeing. And so they can share their also personal experiences, and then you can all collectively move together.
Yeah, I love the point is if you're exploring with a little bit of a compass in hand or target in hand, which is these relatable, common, normal frames that we all, or dilemmas that we all struggle with, all of a sudden talking to one person seems much more generalizable to everybody else.
It does, yeah. And also, it feels so good when you realize you're not alone. You're not the only person in the world that struggled with this one thing, which oftentimes, definitely for me, that's where my brain goes, oh my gosh, I'm the only person that ever makes this mistake or does this. And so the more we all relate and like, no, I do that as well, how collectively that changes things.
All right, well, let's pivot to a little tutorial with Bridget and Jenny, if you don't mind.
So the first thing I'd like you to practice with me is what we like to call maximize sharing from the speaker. So whoever it is that you're going to start your conversation with, when the urge comes up to either pivot to someone else in the debrief, or when you want to start strategizing or giving tips and tricks or how you would do it differently, try to pause yourself and ask, what else was on your mind? Or I see, is there anything else? Tell me more.
Okay, I'm going to just try it, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm going to take it from the top with our producer, James, who was a middle school teacher before advancing on other things in his career. So, James, I'm going to talk to you a little about something I've actually admired in your teaching, which is what I would call classroom management skills. And you and I teach together from time to time in our advanced instructor course. So I'm going to refer to some stuff from there. Sound okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So, James, I want to talk about the challenges of engaging 20 or more people when there's really different levels of engagement. I've noticed that sometimes in the advanced course, I struggle with how to get sort of everybody into the pool and or hearing from everybody. And I've also noticed that you seem to do quite well with that in terms of getting people involved. Seems a little bit like a black box to me. I'm not sure exactly what you're doing there. So could you just unpack that a little? Like, what do you do? How are you doing that?
Yeah, it's a huge subject, honestly. Classroom management as a whole is a whole major component of classroom education training. So it's almost hard to answer the question really succinctly.
Okay. Well, one thing I've noticed is that you move around the room quite a bit, probably more than I do. Could you tell me a little bit about that if it is part of your strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a classroom management technique that's just called proximity. In a population of adolescents, proximity is really about de-escalating behaviors that are at a very initial stage. Someone is losing focus or attention or is maybe distracted by something else. Just moving physically closer to them is actually a really strong attention gaining technique where you don't have to call the person out. You don't have to really do anything that would interrupt the flow of your lesson, but you simply pass closer to them. You move the focus of attention around the room, and suddenly that is something to track and follow versus what I think is sort of the standard technique, especially with adult learners, where you are standing in one spot in the same position relative to everyone throughout an hour or 2 hours or even 3 hours of a lecture. And that can be really static and boring. So there's almost nothing different to the flow, except that I'm physically moving from place to place to make better eye contact with people, to notice who's engaged, who's not engaged, and to use that proximity technique to sort of keep people involved and sort of conscious of their own attention without actually calling out the fact that they are potentially not paying attention.
Can I pause and discuss with you, Bridget?
Yes.
So I heard a bunch of very interesting things there.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where my mind is going.
Okay.
One place my mind is going is I want to solve my problem, which is I'm interested in engaging people who maybe have been quieter and haven't talked as much. At the same time, I'm also interested that I probably don't have a full picture of James's mental model of classroom management. And I heard your principle of maximize his point of view or something like that.
Yeah, maximize
So,
sharing.
yeah. So can you suggest what I might do here?
Yeah, in this instance, one, you could restate. Okay, so it sounds like just moving around the room is an intentional classroom management style. So you're succinctly rephrasing what he's already said.
Yep.
The intent behind that is double checking that your tracking and your understanding is matching. I love, or I remember one of the first times in a debrief, I was trying to restate and they said, no, that's not what I said at all. And I was like, oh shoot, this is definitely an intentional piece before choosing to move on. Another good move is naming it and then saying anything else.
Okay. Just keep it real simple.
Just keep it real simple.
So James, I heard you talk about proximity as a technique of classroom management, and you explained how it worked via such things as redirecting attention and or quashing possibly not good things that might be about to blossom or bloom by just your presence. And I can imagine that's very important when you're dealing with middle schoolers. What else comes to mind when you think about engaging people via classroom management?
You had mentioned seeking out people who have been quieter or who haven't participated. Sometimes I will name that very explicitly. So I might say something like, I want to hear from someone I haven't heard from yet. So not saying, this person, I want you to talk to me. But just to say to folks who are participating, like, I'm not punishing you for participating. I want to hear from someone else. The other thing that, is maybe more relevant to 11-year-olds is I would say, I would like to see 10 hands. I'm asking a question. I'm not going to call on the first person. I would like to wait until everyone has processed to the point that 10 people have an answer, and then I'm going to pick someone to call on, and very likely it's not going to be the first person who raised their hand. People just process things at such different rates, and you may get a really great answer that isn't the quickest answer. Being clear that you're not punishing people who do want to participate, you just want to hear more voices.
Love that. Okay, I'm going to pause and discuss with you again, Bridget.
Yeah.
So what I'm really interested in now, Bridget, is what is the universal human goal frame thing that ignites James to do this? Like, why does he care? He's clearly passionate about it. I'm hallucinating. He might have some philosophy or passion, or I don't know what. Any coaching on pivoting that direction? Or
the next move that has been successful is asking the question, okay, so it sounds like you're able to consistently do X, Y, and Z, the proximity, waiting to make sure you have 10 hands. What challenges have you experienced?
Okay. So I'm going to just push back for a second, Bridget. I like that question. I love that question in deepening or broadening, whatever it is, the conversation. But what I really want to know right now, what I'm really curious about is, why does he care? Like, why has he worked on his craft like this?
That seems like a natural step to go as well.
Okay. So James, I find myself extremely curious at this moment about the either philosophy or passion or something that drives you. Like, so many people kind of go through the motions when they're teaching, and clearly that ain't you. What's behind your interest in this, or why do you care?
perhaps for a lot of folks, like you may not necessarily think in the moment about like fairness and justice in the course of running a debriefing at like a higher education level. It comes up a lot more with children. It's only fair and just that everybody gets the same number of opportunities to participate in this conversation. But I think it's the same thing fundamentally is if we are only focused on a certain type of person, like only selecting for a certain type of learner in the way that we allow people to participate or encourage people to participate in these kind of learning moments, it's actually often unfair or unjust in its outcomes. In terms of how fast people advance and how people learn and what kind of practitioners we end up promoting and creating.
That was a very unexpected answer, James, and very interesting. I find it very touching.
Yeah, don't get me started on people we select for in health professions education.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could go on.
All right, I won't go there then. I see that the standard of hearing from many, allowing for different processing times, allowing for different ways of learning or participating enhances the distribution of attention and therefore is more fair and just. And I really like that. So I'm going to wrap this up, Bridget. Feedback for me if you have some that our listeners can learn from my either strengths or weaknesses there. And what do you think?
The strengths are just continuing to explore and be open and curious with all the hesitations or all the lessons that they've learned. Like, how are you able to get that? What's the driving thoughts and why you successfully do that? It's been challenging for me to continue with that. And also you hear so much more than what you expected.
So cool.
Time. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to wrap us up, folks, with a workout of the week and then a thank you to Bridget. So for the workout of the week this week, invite them to tell you more about it. Maybe nothing more sophisticated than tell me more. And what you're driving for there is some sort of a relatable either worry or hesitation that we could all understand, or potentially a relatable positive value like the one we heard from James, like I care about justice and fairness, and that's what drives me. So we're looking for that deeper motivation, either image management or driving towards some kind of positive goal. So the workout of the week is to ask somebody to tell you more. Bridget Van Gotten, I'd love to thank you so much for taking the time to coach me and come on Curious Now and talk to us about how do we explore during preview. I Think, I Wonder.
Yeah, thank you. It was my pleasure.